Hey everybody, welcome back to Sensei Steve Says, hosted by Shiage Do Martial Arts. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that impacts a little bit of everybody, and that is training with limitations and overcoming obstacles. So we're going to talk about a couple different parts of this. The first part is what you're training for. Now generally in my classes, what I aim to do is create a method of self-defense that will actually be useful, that I've personally tested. Unfortunately, with my other employment, sometimes I do get into fights to be able to deal with threats as they come up, and in real-world situations. In that, there are some things that definitely some people get a little skeeved about, whether or not they'll be able to do it or not, and they get in their own head, and a lot of times getting in your own head is the first step to not being able to do something. So the first thing we're going to talk about is power, and a power differentiation between you and a potential opponent. Now, to start with, all you've got in a fight is what you bring to it. If you've got knowledge of how to use this stuff around you, then that's what you're bringing. If you've got strength and muscular strength and endurance and whatever, that's something you're bringing with you. You can't pause a fight and then go get that, bring it back. That's not how it works. All you got when a fight starts is what you brought with you. And part of that is, is the other person stronger than you? Now, personally, I'm about 6'4", about 200 pounds. I'm not going to say it's all muscle because it's not, but I do work out a lot. I lift weights, I run, I do a lot of calisthenic exercises, and I would consider myself to be in reasonably good shape, and my Fitbit says that I'm in decent shape, so I'll take that for what it's worth. With that being said, there's always somebody out there stronger than you. Look at these guys, the strongman competitions who lift up the back end of a pickup truck, that are picking up ATVs and squatting them, that do fireman carries with 2 or 3 people on their back. That's not me. I can do some of that. I can do part of that, or like a percentage of that, but there's always going to be that guy out there that's, 6 foot flat, 350 pounds of all muscle and bench presses his mom's Buick for practice in the backyard. There's always going to be that guy that's stronger than you. So what do you do about that? Well, part of it is you train yourself, right? The easiest way to bring more power to the fight is for you to have more power. Starting a workout regimen, having doing weightlifting and stuff to help build your power, doing katas like with weights like we did yesterday's class, building your endurance with cardiovascular exercise, whether it's running or swimming or biking or whatever, to be able to get your heart rate up and keep it up and be able to function like that. And it's not necessarily a level thing, right? Just because you can pick up a 50-pound weight doesn't mean you're strong. Just because, the other guy can pick up 55 pounds doesn't mean he's better than you. It's just it's a tool that tends to make your techniques easier to accomplish, okay? But if the other person's bigger and stronger than you, aka the thing we always assume when we're doing self-defense, the two things that you really want to be able to do is have endurance for yourself, right? And to learn how to use their power against them, okay? That knowledge is something that you bring with you, okay? If they're big, huge, burly, whatever, and they throw their punch, if I can get them to start falling and provide just a little bit of counterforce, maybe get them to fall on their face, right? Now I'm using gravity and, their weight against them. And that's not necessarily using my strength. That's using my skill, my timing, my whatever, to help augment my power to help overcome theirs, okay? So it's basically an equation, right? I'm adding everything I've got with my side against everything they've got on their side, and that's going to be changing all the time with skill level and who's moving and how they're moving and what they're doing and all that kind of stuff. So in order to overcome that power balance, some of it is, bringing your power level up, your base power up, and then also, having your skill and your timing and stuff like that honed in so that you can add that to the top. One of the ways that I tell this to my students in person is think of it as like crown molding. Okay, crown molding is designed to cover the gap in the drywall between the wall and the ceiling. Okay, if there's a little gap, you can put a little bit of crown molding and it looks pretty good. If there's a bigger gap, you can get a bigger piece of crown molding and it still looks all right. But if that gap gets too big, then you can't cover it up. Okay, you have to do something to adjust how the drywall fits. Okay, and if your power is greater, right, so the drywall comes up through the ceiling, it makes that nice, and that makes that nice corner, and you don't need karate at all, right? If karate is that crown molding and your power is the drywall, right? If you're more powerful than the other person, you don't necessarily need karate to make that work, but when their skill level gets tied into it, it's a rolling scale. The second biggest part to that is mindset, okay? It's one thing to be a big, strong dude, but if you're afraid to use what you've got, and you hesitate, you don't want to use what your training or your strength or your skill or any of that stuff, that's going to be a hindrance on you. That's going to subtract from your side of the power equation. Personally, I'm not out there to be the biggest, baddest dude. My goal is always to be the most difficult person to kill in any given room. Okay. When I walk into the room, I don't want to be, the lion in the room. I don't want to be, walking into a room like The Rock, where everybody looks at him and is like, damn, that guy's got it, that guy's a threat because he's huge and everybody can see that. I would much rather be the Bruce Lee type guy that has all the muscle and the skill, but when you throw on a t-shirt, you can't see that. They look lean, but they don't necessarily look dangerous. That's where I want to be. Okay, that little bit of a hidden thing so that I don't have people just trying to challenge me because they're intimidated by it or whatever reason people do that for. But part of that mindset thing is putting yourself in a constant struggle. Fights are, by nature, very stressful. And if you don't know how to deal with that stress, that's going to be a huge subtraction on your power curve because you're going to be too stressed out to think calmly and coolly and collectedly to be able to bring in your full breadth of knowledge. Okay? If somebody throws a punch at your face and you're too busy going, oh man, somebody's going to punch me in the face, right? You're not going to be able to get that head block off because you're too busy thinking about getting punched in the face. And you will get punched in the face, and now that adds more stress because you're now saying, ow, that hurt, and they're throwing another punch, and you still have to head block it. So it's just going to make that, it's a sliding scale that puts you on a slippery slope. Okay? So part of that is mindset. Know what it's like to take a hit. Okay? Obviously, you want to do that in a supervised setting. You don't just want somebody to randomly haul off and punch you in the face as hard as they can because that's how people get really injured. But a good karate instructor should be able to hit you in an area that's not going to do damage but will cause pain, right? Your large muscle groups, your thighs, right? Your calves, your abs, your biceps and tricep area. Taking a solid punch to any one of those things is not going to cause real damage with a normal human level of power behind it. If you take a baseball bat, obviously you're going to do real damage. But if I punch you in the stomach, it's going to hurt. But if you were ready for it, you tensed up, right? Because we're training, you should be able to take that punch and be able to come back from it, okay? So you can train your mind as part of that training that we were talking about before. Now, some of this comes to stature and physical limitations, okay? I'm talking right now, up until this point, I've been talking about two healthy people dealing with each other. One of them might be, we'll start with stature. I'm 6'4". If I'm fighting somebody who's 5'4", I have an advantage right off the bat. I can reach them from, probably at least 10 inches farther than they can reach me. That's huge. If I know how to use my body to take advantage of that 10 inches, it's going to be very difficult for them to overcome that. It's not impossible. With training, if you train, and the bigger key here is target selection, you can overcome that. Now, what do I mean by target selection? If somebody's a foot taller than you, you're probably not going to be wanting to aim for their face. Yes, the face is a great target. Temples, the nose, the mouth, the jaw, all of these are phenomenal targets. But if you stand a foot shorter than your opponent, then you're wasting extra energy reaching outside of your power sphere, I'll call it, right? The place where you have the most power and can generate the most torque to deliver that hit. So maybe if you take a slightly less effective target, and I say slightly, and I mean it, because maybe I want to throw punches at the solar plex. If I take a shot to the solar plex and that knocks the wind out of me, right, the chances of me being able to be effective in a fight are significantly lower. As somebody who's been punched in the solar plex and had the wind knocked out of me in a fight, it's completely debilitating. It is one of the most difficult things to continue fighting through, okay? So if you pick your targets, sometimes you can overcome that. Other options for target selection is to attack the weapons that are coming at you. If somebody's throwing a kick and I throw a punch to the knee as they're doing their kick, the chances of them being able to put all their weight on that to throw another kick are less, okay? Is it none? No. There are always people who are going to be able to deal with that pain and probably move through it. But the more pain that I can inflict on those targets, the less of a chance that they have of using that weapon again. So if I'm aiming for a knee on a kick, or maybe the nerve between your bicep and your tricep on your arm, and I give a good, whether it's an Ippon Ken, one knuckle punch, or just a solid punch that I connect with my knuckles to one of those targets, the chances of them being able to use that technique again is significantly lower. By taking advantage of that, I can help remove the distance advantage that my opponent has. Okay, I have found a few people in the world who are taller than me. I got intimidated a little bit too when I had to fight them, and then I realized what it's like to fight somebody taller than you. I've always had the benefit of fighting people smaller than me. I'm able to attack the head because usually it's down. I can throw a lot of kicks to the head because it's lower, right? It makes it easier for me because I don't have to try as hard, right? I don't have to bring my foot up, to my head or higher to be able to deliver those. I can bring them up to my shoulder height and still have a very successful kick with a good target. Having somebody shorter, they might need to attack the knees from the ground, doing leg kicks and stuff like that to help minimize that advantage. Another example of a physical limitation is females. I'm sorry to say that you have extra parts that tend to get in the way, right? Your breasts. When you're moving around, sometimes, and I've heard this complaint from numerous people, especially when you're doing bow techniques or you're trying to do punches or something, things get in the way, okay? Guys, if you're one of those super big muscle-bound guys and where you can't scratch your head because your muscle's too big and you can't bend your arm this way, that's a physical limitation. You have to learn how to move around that. Now, an additional one, and one that is a personal choice, you actually have complete control over this, is your hair. I choose to keep my hair short because I don't like when people grab it. It's also cooler, and luckily it's an acceptable style for guys. So this is what I go with, but my hair is too short to grab. Nobody can grab a handful of this. But if you grab if you have longer hair and somebody grabs your ponytail or just a fistful of hair or however that is, that's a physical characteristic that you have control over that you have to understand going into the fight. What do I do if somebody pulls my hair? Have I ever had somebody pull my hair before? Is this a feeling that I'm used to? Now, you can always get through it, right, by attacking their targets if you understand what to expect. If you know what kind of pain is coming, right, and you can get your mind around it, you can use your other tools to create damage. Generally, somebody has to be within arm range to be able to grab you by the hair, and they're probably not going to be staying out here for very long at full extension. They're going to bring it in to where they're stronger, which means their core, which lets you bring all of your tools into bear. Now, they're also probably going to try to pull you off balance, but again, that's something that you can train for. Injuries, okay? Injuries are temporary limitations, okay? You hurt your leg, you broke a toe, you broke a finger, cracked a rib. These are things that are common, unfortunately, in karate training, okay? But if I'm training and I crack a rib and then 2 days later I get in a fight, I don't get to say, hang on, wait, I cracked a rib the other day. I need to heal before we can have this fight. All I've got is what I bring with me, okay? So I have to be able to know what I can or can't do. Do I have to to delineate an entire hand to protecting that rib, because if I take one shot there, this fight just ended for me? Do I have to, be more aggressive and take the fight to them because I won't be able to have the same endurance because I can't breathe properly and I'm going with cracked rib again? If I broke a finger, can I throw techniques with the hand that I broke or the foot that I broke that finger or toe on? Do I have to change the techniques I do? I can't do a punch anymore, but ridge hands are okay, shudos are okay, that kind of stuff. It's all going to be you knowing your body, okay? Now, disabilities, okay? Legitimate disabilities are usually permanent, okay? Sometimes you can get something to take it back, but if you've got a prosthetic, if you're missing, or just missing a limb and you don't have a prosthetic yet, if you've got spine trauma, if you've got physical deformities, if you're blind, if you're deaf, these are things that are not likely to change for you, and you need to be able to understand how to function around them. Now, I can't tell you how to function, okay? I can give you hints, and if I watch you, I can give you like tips and tricks of how I would potentially try to deal with that, maybe give you some ideas to come around something, but that's going to be up to you. You want to know your limits, when to push and when not to, okay? You want to push until you're causing damage. If you're causing damage, you're pushing too hard. If it's just pain, a little bit of pain, discomfort, right? Know the difference in your head. You can keep pushing. When you're doing push-ups and you get to that point where you can't do a single one more, and you wait 10 seconds and you compound that one last one out, your muscles hurt, right? That's pain. But you can get that one more push-up. When you start doing damage, you feel it in your elbows or tendons or something like that, that's when you stop. Let yourself heal, okay? If you have a major disability, that your karate is going to be completely different than anybody else's in the world. If I was deaf, I need to be very protective of my eyes, and my eyes need to be very perceptive. If I am blind, the same is true about my hearing. You can fight with missing a sense. You can fight missing a limb. It is more difficult. Now, the other thing to think about is, if you have two even fighters, now you're comparing apples to apples. So you have a person who is, a full physical and mental capability against a person who is of full physical and mental capability. You can compare those people and say, okay, the one who trains harder is probably going to win. If you have some kind of disability, that apples to apples thing doesn't work anymore. You have an apples to oranges comparison now, right? You are dealing with more things that the other person doesn't have to deal with. So now, basically, if I talk about those force levels, you're starting at a level that's already down here. You have a disadvantage. Now, you can turn that into an advantage. You can train things to make them better and bring yourself up to that same level, but you are always starting at a disadvantage. That's not a bad thing in terms of like a mental strength thing. You will be more adept at overcoming struggle if you are always dealing with struggle, and you will be less likely to quit something like that. Some of the most resilient and I will say the people that embody the most indomitable spirit that I've ever met have some sort of disability, and they decided that it wasn't going to be the thing that controls them for the rest of their life. And that's why they have that strength of character that allows them to push through a lot of things that their fully functional counterparts might not be able to do. But at the same time, they did have to work a lot harder to get to that point, okay? So I'm not saying that they have something better or worse. I'm just saying that you're trying to compare apples and oranges. If you are one of those people that you have a disability and you're trying your best to push through, then don't be disheartened if somebody beats you who has full faculty, right? You have the ability to overcome that. It is harder for you. That sucks. But life's not fair. But it is inclusive. If you have the dedication to overcome, you will overcome. Okay, if you have your sights set on beating Bruce Lee and you're missing a leg, is that going to be hard? Yeah, he's dead. That's a pretty big disability. Okay, but that's not saying you can't do it. You just have to try really hard, commit yourself to the goal, and keep working through it. Really, the whole thing with limitations and overcoming obstacles is knowing yourself and understanding that all you got is what you bring with you. The last thing I just want to touch on is things that are going to disable you whether you think about it or not. Alcohol, for those of you who are old enough to drink, will disable you to some point. It dulls your relaxing or your reactions. It is a central nervous system depressant. You will get slower. You will be less perceptive if you are imbibed on alcohol, if you're imbibing alcohol. That is a fact. Okay, there's more than enough research out there to show that that is a fact. If you are doing drugs or different things, that is affecting you. There's nothing you can do about that, except choose not to do it, or more to the point, choose when to do it. If you think you're about to get into a fight, it's probably not a good idea to chug a beer. Okay, but same thing. You should know if these are things that you are doing. If you have medications or stuff that you take that makes you drowsy, that makes you slower, that makes you sleepy, these are things that you have to understand. And my suggestion is, especially if it's like a prescribed medication for a condition you have, it's something that you should definitely be taking when you're training. Okay, as long as that fits within your doctor's recommendations of when you're taking stuff. Right? I don't know what you got going on, but if it's something that's disabling you in some way, you should probably train with that at some point. Maybe not constantly or consistently, but once in a while, so that you have an idea of what it is to overcome that. All right, with that, that's what I've got for today. All right, it's a bit of a deeper topic, something that's a little bit more targeted towards my older audience, but I think it's still important. A couple quick announcements. Our Zoom classes are still going on. They're going to be on Friday. We got our kata classes that we're going to be doing in the park on the 13th, the 20th, and 27th. So if you're a Shiage Do student, make sure you check out your email for that. We're doing our 30 and 30 challenge for the month of June. That's 30 miles in 30 days. So I'm encouraging you guys to go out and do as many miles as you can in as short a period as you can. So if you do more than 30, awesome. At the end of the month, whoever has the most miles in is going to get a limited edition t-shirt drawn by me. So that's going to be kind of cool. For our YouTube viewers, if you enjoy this, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you keep seeing our content as it comes out. At the moment, until we go back to full opening, we are doing 4 videos a week. And when we go back to a full open, we're going to continue doing classes. It's just going to change the format a little bit. We won't be in my living room anymore. We'll be at the dojo. So that'll be a good step in the right direction. Other than that, I got nothing. You guys are awesome. Keep on getting after it. You guys are dismissed.